So we're gonna be back to our Farming Simulator Survivor Man Challenge. This will be a little bit of a shorter segment for the Survivor Man Challenge because we are just kind of putting it in at the end of stream because we're checking out our game. I did enjoy the Garden Life. I could see that being a game for just really relaxing achievement hunting, trying to get all the different flowers. I do wish they had a different, like, an upgrade pruner, so that you could just go up to a bush and be like, "Give me the flowers." Like, don't give me all the other crap. Just give me the flowers and like the seeds. But you already you have the seed bag or whatever for that. I feel like getting that would feel good. Maybe you unlock it or something when you hit a milestone. I don't know. I also don't know if that's early access or not. I didn't look. I thought it was released, but I'll be honest, I didn't check. But yeah, so it definitely feels like a, I just want to chill, brain off, play with some flowers. I think it'll be a good game for that. If you're looking for more, I think you'll be massively disappointed. But yeah, so with the Survivor Man Challenge, for those who haven't seen me doing this before, when we started, I started with this bus. We sleep here. That bed is absolutely cursed. We got our wood fire stove, our MREs, and our chainsaw. We also gave ourselves this truck, which one of my rules is I may not sell the truck. That's just stream convenience things. But this is probably not, and this is probably not Survivor Man Challenge. Well, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about with that. So we've got all that going on. So we're not allowed to take loans and leases, and we've been building up from there. Let me take a quick stock. The sheep are doing fine on food and water. Our greenhouses can use some water. So what we need to do is I need to get our cultivator to start cultivating and doing our poppy field. Did I already cultivate the poppy? I may have already cultivated the poppy fields. Either way, I will have stuff. You're lacking punctuation in the title. I am lacking punctuation in the title. Oh, probably not Survivor Man Challenge. I see. I understand now. Words are hard. Punctuation is harder. I, for the life of me, do not remember what the heck was going on. We're in April, which means it was the day that we sell our wool, which has already been sold. It's not over here next to me. We've already cultivated these fields. Have I done a round of fertilizer on them? I have not. It says 0%. And I'm going to go with 0% means we probably have not done the fertilizer. Which means what I'm doing right now is... Right, no, actually, I go seeds, then herbicide, then fertilizer, and then that'll be done with that, and then we move on towards harvesting. Right. That's fine. And do we have any good sales? Because we're watching for a harvester. Oh yeah, so we can get a nice tractor. I'm gonna skip on the tractor. We want the harvester. Because an upgrade tractor would be huge for us, yes. But right now in our processes, the harvester's awful. We have literally the smallest harvester. We've got, like, the top of the line of a lot of equipment, and then there's the harvester, which is just not. Very not. But with this, the AI can actually handle doing the seeder for me. Oh, I have to actually choose the right crop. That would have not done anything, actually. So sorghum. Alright, and I'm going to take 2 seconds, because while YouTube is going to be kind of disruptive because we started this and I'm just immediately eating, I haven't eaten my dinner, and I need to do that. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to mute my mic, and I'm going to eat my dinner. Alright, I'll be back in a few. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. to be fair, this kind of thing is actually true in a lot of games. Like when you play RimWorld, you have times where you set stuff up and you kind of just watch the little pawns move around and go, okay, like you're building that wall over there. I'm just waiting. And now that kind of stuff. And then you have like the city skylines, you build a bunch of city and you go, okay, cool, I have to wait for money. Like, let me go poke some roads where I'm really not doing a whole lot. Like that's actually very, very common in like simulation and all those, that you'll have times where like, what am I doing right now? My cruise control is on and I'm waiting. Or I built my settlement and I'm just kind of letting stuff, like even Bannerlord for that matter. You can be like, all right, we're running to the other side of the map. And you can like full speed fast forward and get intercepted because you were going too fast. Or like, for example, when we're playing Kenshi, there's times like, what are you doing? I'm lying face first in the dirt in my own blood. Why are you doing that? Because I'm unconscious and I can't do anything else because I'm lying face down in my own blood and waiting for my character to get better. Yeah. Flex says, yeah, the remote streamers take small breaks when Cassandra is on cooldown. Yeah, exactly. But there's like so many, like Oxygen Not Included is the same way, where you queue up like 5 or 6 things and you're like, all right, let's just let the dupes get the work done. And you know, as a streamer, you have your conversation and all that happening. But like gameplay wise, you poked the ant farm and you're letting it do its thing. And then, you know, when it settles that down, you poke the ant farm again. But there's tons of games that happen that. And even if we go, but oh, that's why I don't like, you know, X whatever game, because there's too much downtime. It still happens with games like Escape from Tarkov too. It's called the queue. It takes forever. And then your dude gets itself stuck and dead. Yeah, and we call that content. Oh yeah, Black saying I always queue up too much and they get overburned. Oh yeah, no, I do that in so many of those games because I have like, all right, well I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. So you're just like mapping it all out, and then your characters do like a little over here and a little over there and a little over here and a little over here, and none of it gets completely done. Everything's like 20-30%, which means none of it's worth anything because it has to be done for it to give you any value. Yep, but no, that's I feel no guilt in being like AI takeover driving. It gives me a break to rest my hands. What the AI is more efficient with some of these things. Like its driving is hell. Its driving is embarrassing. But when it comes to the amount of seeds it uses, the amount of fertilizer it uses, the amount of lime it uses, you can see like it has really good precision that it's only overlapping the tiniest stripe. I as the player will not match it. Now granted, I have to snipe the end of this field because the AI is not very smart. Which is... oh. Okay, I understand. It's complaining that my tractor's in the way. Which is fair, because it was. Alright, I'm gonna finish my food.
Nom 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 nom.
All right. Dinner has been consumed, so I do apologize. I do know that gets to be disruptive. Normally I'd eat much earlier. I used to do, when it came time for me to eat my dinner, like, on stream, what I used to do is I used to do words on stream. But, chat started getting so good at it, we had the problem is I'd start words on stream thinking, yeah, those will be like 5-10 minutes, it'll be perfect. And then chat started being able to drag them out to like 30, 35, 40 minutes. It's like, all right, hang on. Wait a second. I can't step away that long. I mean, I can, but it's like not necessarily the best. And there's also those things that we're having fewer total number of people participating. So as well as things that kind of went away. Yeah, today it was bad. It took me for it to actually eat my food. Yep. Alright. So I'm doing as well. The AI is doing its thing over there, seeding the fields. You only have 2 fields I have to deal with today, in-game. So that's the first one. That's the biggest field, if I remember correctly. But I just need to put down, basically I need to seed the field, then I need to herbicide the field, then I need to fertilize the field, and then we advance till it's time to harvest the, I believe, the wheat. Then we harvest the wheat, and then it goes through its whole process of what we're doing right now. And then we go back to doing the sorghum. Sure thing, Danny King, what's your question? Alright. Now, this 100 horsepower tractor is really not exactly adequate for running the sprayer, but it can, you know, technically make it work. It's one of those things that if you look at the stats, it's like absolutely not, but, you know. I have no idea what you're saying, Danny. So, those... You're saying words, but to me I go, what? Which generally it's a thing, with TikTok specifically, when people ask me to say random words, or like random sentences where I repeat it, I usually just deliberately avoid saying them because people do weird things with it. Yep, multi-stream. Yep, generally I stream on TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. We're just going to have this park right here for right now. Oh, I need to... Because I've been recording my YouTube series, I had that UI turned off. So I'm going to have you sit there. I'm going to top off the water for the sheep. No, I do understand that word. I'm just scratching my head as to what you're asking. It's like someone said, you know, at GSL, can you make a wall duck? And I was like, a what? They're words, but, you know, they don't inherently mean something to me, so I don't really understand. Alright. So we are filling up our greenhouses. But yeah, to catch people up what we've got going on in this farm. I know I was bad on the intro just because I was heckin' hungry. Basically we started with no money, a chainsaw, and a dream where you technically also get a plot of land, just mechanically the game requires it. Or like you can do that or the forestry mod, but either way, same difference. But that hill where we see that burnt out bus and our truck on right behind us, between us and the grain mill, there was a bunch of trees on there. So when you start out the run, you cut down a whole bunch of trees to get your early like seed money and all that. We use that to buy the greenhouses, and we use the greenhouses to fund the equipment to be able to grow our very early crops, which is I think we started with oats and then transferred over to, I believe, wheat from there. And so with all that, we then were able to start using, I think we grew wheats at the wheat, like it went oats then wheat. But we grew the wheat. And we use that to eventually buy more land, and after we bought more land to get more crops, to get more money, we were able to buy our grain mill, which is the white building in the background there. And what that does is we're able to then take that wheat, and instead of just selling it at wheat, which doesn't get us a whole lot of money, we were able to start processing into flour. And in Farmer Sim 22, generally speaking, when you have a product and you then use it in some production line to make a product using that base material, you usually get somewhere in the ballpark of about 1.5 times the value of your initial product. So generally speaking, always going through production line will make you have more and more money. And it does go to layers. So for example, I take the wheat, it does relatively okay. And then I go and I take that wheat, and I put it in and make flour. So I'm getting 1.5 times the value of my flour. Well, then I take that flour and I make it into bread. So I'm getting 1.5 times the value of the flour, which is 1.5 times the value of, you know, the wheat at the beginning. And you start seeing where this starts to compound and actually make a pretty considerable sum. And there's even more layers you can go than that. There's a couple items that let you go like 3 or 4 layers deep. Like, you know, wood has 3 layers. Because you have the timber, you can then turn it into, like, planks. And then you can turn that planks into furniture. And so I know that has 3 layers. I know, like, with the sheep you get, you know, you get the wool. You make the wool into, I believe it's linen. Then you take the linen you make it into clothes. But those different production lines, like, the wool by itself, I'm making roughly 10,000 a year. If we were to set up the production line for linen, I'm probably making, you know, 15,000 a year. If we then go to the next level, we're probably making somewhere there of like 27,000 per year, or whatever the next iteration is. I'm not going to bother trying to make sure my math is right. So it could be absolutely huge how much of a difference having a production line. Yeah, wool, cloth, clothes. Yeah, it's something like that. And then there's some goods that just don't have a production line in the game. Like, in the base game, soybeans, you sell them as soybeans. There's no, like, turning into the billion things in real life that soybeans are made into. At least not that I remember. But on the other hand, when it comes to crops that, you know, their base sell value, soybeans in the game are one of the higher ones. That just selling soybeans as soybeans is better than, you know, selling wheat as wheat. Okay. Yeah, and I'll have to sweep off the end here. You can see where it misses the spots because of those trees. I'm having a feeling I'm going to have to clear out some of these trees in the long run. I've liked keeping them. The other thing I can also do, actually this is probably what I more realistically will do, is I'll probably just snipe the end of this field off, and I'll make it another place where we'd have a road. That way, you know, things just, you know, just work. I'm going to take over for the AI here, because it's going to do the thing where it drives halfway up the field, then backs halfway down the field, then starts actually doing the work. So if I just zip up this way, we get knocked out. Alright, sorry about that. Now, I am thinking if I do that, where I start clearing up some of the hills, I could sit there and then turn around and then just deliberately use the tree planter. You could just have the AI go side to side and sit back for... Oh, yeah! That was the way I set up this field in the first place, wasn't it? Then I very deliberately said, oh, yeah, this field we're going to have them go back and forth just because I have these forests on the end. That was literally how we intended them doing this field. I just forgot. That's fine. At least it's an easy fix. I have debated, I believe it's called the GPS mod or something like that. I have debated getting that mod. And like it does a whole lot of things I don't care about that I'm not going to use it for. But the big one it does is instead of just hit the button, do the field, it gets to be a complete disaster, like, when you do it that way. What this one you can do is be like, okay, here's the strategy of how I want you to go across the field, this orientation, that kind of thing. So that when you go and you have the AI in there, you say, just do the field, it actually succeeds, as opposed to embarrassing itself horrifically. Because that's what the AI does normally. But, one of the things I think is reasonable about it, and it also lets you do that while you're in the vehicle. So you can say, like, hey, do this. Now, when you're doing it while you're in the vehicle with it, it actually doesn't, it doesn't take the money like when you hand it over to the workers. And I think that's okay, because you have to pay, I think it was $15,000 to put the module in your tractor. It's an extra expense. And for a run like this, setting aside $15,000 per vehicle to be able to do that is not an insignificant sum of money. Like, just for we have this tractor, we've got the yellow-green tractor, we've got the harvester, I wouldn't put in the little teeny tiny tractor. So that's already $45,000. Which is, you know, a good chunk of change when we're making a couple $100,000 a year on a good year. It pre-calculates to get working with over the field, instead of looking around for obstacles. Yeah, there's some other stuff. Like, you can also finagle it, because I believe, like, with course play as well, you can sit there and be like, auto map it, and you go, this one corner, just because this thing's here, it's not right. So you can, like, grab the nodes and, like, move them around to where you want them. But instead of, it's basically, instead of handing it over to a really not very smart AI, you're kind of saying, this is the pattern I want you to drive. I don't want you to just guess. Like, the base is a guess, and it might be good enough. But, like, I want you to very predictably drive the same exact pattern each and every time. Because, you know, we vetted this pattern will actually succeed in doing the field. And the reason I'm saying I probably want to get that is, while we're not there yet, we're going to reach a point, as I expand, that it's going to come down to me having to do one of two things. Either one, why are you not spraying? There you go. Either one, I'm going to have to slow down time to be able to do more within a game day, which is certainly an option, and just still manually do certain processes like the sprayer and all that. Or B, I could turn around and use, like, either course play or GPS or one of these mods that lets you improve the AI's navigation to be like, hey, because, like, right now, if I hand this over to the AI seems exceptionally bad at the sprayer. It'll go halfway up the field, turn around, and go the other way and be like, okay, I finished, and leave, like, 90% of the field undone. Like, it's just, and this is a field that's, like, 100% been cleared. There's no stumps we're overlooking or anything. We've done it a billion times. And all the other processes it does just fine. I mean, other than when the ends, when I do it the wrong direction. But the sprayer just kind of goes, I don't know. But yeah. It's just being able to hand it to the AI and be like, do it. Like, do it correctly. Because if I do it that way, I could take the more time-consuming and laborious tasks and just say, AI, that's a you problem. Like, just start handling this field, and I can go run over and start taking care of the next field. Because eventually our farm will get to the size that, unless I cut down the speed of the game to, like, you know, half speed or whatever, like half real-time speed or whatever, doing it all by myself will eventually become not realistic. And it'll also be pretty disappointing, because it'll take us multiple streams just to get through a year to being able to get, like, the payout. Now, one would hope at that point I would have a whole bunch of different crops that all pay out at different times of the year and yada yada yada. And so that wouldn't be a big deal. But you get the picture. And memory per field, so you can record the field of the tool and the AI will do it exactly the same. It also has a follow me mode, so if you have two tools of the same width, it only has to calculate it out once. Yeah. Yeah, no, like I said, from my understanding, Courseplay and GPS, like Courseplay has more it can do. Like it takes what GPS has and then GPS tries to approach it in a way that it considers as balanced, which, you know, is very subjective, because there's a cost to doing it. But and then on top of that, you know, with the GPS kind of thing, I found the GPS kind of thing looked like it seemed better the way it presented itself in game. Courseplay felt like, not that I was programming the game from what I was seeing, but it looked like there's a lot of like dealing with the logistics overhead, which it is, because it's like outside of what it's supposed to be thematically doing, you are basically teaching the AI navigation, which really genuinely at this point, for as many versions as they've had with Farm Sim, it's time that they improve its ability to navigate to be not nearly as crap as it is. Especially with some of the crops that they've been introducing that are more like, there are crops now that the AI just can't do. That's just, it won't even try. You just say, hey, do this, and it just goes, no, I can't. It's like, but really, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be very hard to teach the AI to do grapes, where you're like, hey, here's the line of the grape fields. Just go along the line. Literally, I've given you a center point to like just navigate along that center point. Now, sure, obviously, if I have like 90-degree angle it can't take, sure, it should fail. But, you know, if I have them all in a straight line, it should be able to handle a straight line. All right. Sorry about that. Now, my hope is right now, when it comes time to harvest, we're going to be on that fence about whether or not I'm going to be able to buy the bigger harvester. We're like right on that fence. But we're close enough on that fence that realistically I might be able to do like an early sale of goods to make the difference. Or if we're really lucky, this is the thing I'm really low-key hoping will happen. Probably won't, but I'm hoping, is that we'll get lucky and either the harvester I'm looking at or one of the ones a little bit bigger than it comes up on sale, because that can happen. Because if it does, we could actually potentially get bigger than I'm aiming for. If it does end up being a thing where I have to wait another whole harvest, then things get more interesting on the decisions. Because we look at it, right now the harvester I'm looking at is, I believe, that one. Because remember, yeah, so that one's 10 meters wide, so it's like pretty much doubling the size. Hey, Ryan, how's it going? It's pretty much doubling the size. But if we look at that, this one is 3,500. The absolute largest one is 550,000. I'm doing pretty good. But with the 550,000, if it goes on sale, they can go down to where you only have to pay 40% the total value. If we were able to snag that, we can afford that. Like if we sell our current harvest and all, we could afford that. Now, it'd be this awkward thing where I have this giant monolith harvester with this like tiny little front end, but I would have bought the largest harvester, one more harvest, and now I can get the largest harvester end. That would be amazing. The odds of that are pretty terrible, though. But if I can either get the harvester I was pointing out, or any of the ones bigger than it, that would do a lot for us. Because right now on our production line, like our various, you know, things I do to maintain the farm, the harvester is like the major outlier in being the slowest process, because it only does 6 meters at a time. Whereas like this thing, I don't remember, it's like 18 meters. It's something ridiculous. Our cedar does something like 12 or 16 meters. Our cultivator does something like 12 or 16 meters. You know, the lime thing is always big. Like, even the cheapest thing for putting down the solid lime and fertilizer is always really solid. So it's one of those things that all my other tools are exceptionally large and able to cover a massive amount of area. And then we got this tiny little harvester. And the only reason we haven't upgraded is because harvesters are heckin' expensive. But because of that, like, you're gonna notice we're only gonna have like the 2 hours that are putting in Farm Sim tonight. In those 2 hours, I'll finish like literally all of the operations I need to for one of the major stages for the growing, where we'll have herbicided, fertilized, seeded, and we could have added cultivating out there as well and knocked it all out in one go. But with all the time that takes, me harvesting the fields takes longer than all collectively. Am I doing multiplayer? No, I'm playing solo on the moment. I generally do play solo most of the time. As a reminder for those who weren't here at the beginning of stream, though, my plan is for Friday. The community Project Zomboid server will be coming up online. You don't need to be subscribed to the channel, but you will need to be in the Discord, which for those over on Twitch, it's !Discord. I think there's a link for it on YouTube. I do not believe there's a link for it on TikTok, just there's not a convenient place for me to put it on TikTok. Sorry. TikTok makes everything more difficult for me. It's still not as bad as YouTube with 90% of stuff, but TikTok does make it a lot more difficult to communicate with people, build a community, that kind of stuff. It's very, very ad hoc, so it takes a lot more to build up a community over there. It's doable. It's a thing that happens, but the tools, you kind of fight with the tools, then use the tools. But yeah, so we'll be doing the community Project Zomboid server. That is not going to be a super difficult, sweaty, or challenging server. We are going to have a decent zombie pop. I believe I'm looking at 8 times pop. We've already got a list of mods that I put on the server today in the community servers channel of the Discord. I don't think I'm going to do sleep. That has been the one that I've gone back and forth. So I don't think we're going to do sleep. Because the downside of not doing sleep is Project Zomboid is balanced very heavily around having sleep. But multiplayer sleep is always a bit on the janky side. And so it is kind of one of those things, if you don't do sleep, it kind of messes with the balance of the game. If you do sleep, you're definitely taking like what feels like a lesser of evils kind of solution. So I was kind of going like this whole time, and it might change. It might be we bring it on the server, we have a couple of days, go, we're actually burning through these zombies way too fast. We need to do like sleep to limit people a little bit. We might sit there. Burn to the Ground says maybe enable sleep as an option instead of forced. So that's, I mean, I'm not aware of a way you can do that. It'd take a ton of coordination. Oh, here, let me explain the way Project Zomboid sleep. There's 2 ways it can work with the multiplayer stuff in Project Zomboid these days. You can have one, which is you have everyone has to go to sleep at the same time. That will absolutely not do, because yeah, exactly your point. Dealing with the logistics of getting everyone to go to sleep at the same time so it works, I don't even want to think about. Because you're gonna have someone who like legitimately can't go to sleep because they're in the middle of a fight and things have gone sideways like 3 times over and yada yada. And so sure, like they're not gonna go to sleep because they can't. The other way you can do it is you can make it so sleep only takes like 5-10 minutes in real life. It's usually you'll set to something like 5 minutes. So it is one of those things that what that does is when your character starts to get sleepy, you have to like go run, find a house, sleep in a bed, and your screen just goes black for like 5 minutes with a little hourglass or whatever. Everything is still running on the server. No one else has to be sleeping at the same time. But you go to sleep, and you're vulnerable while you're like that. And that, to me, between the two, that's certainly the one I would go for. The only way I would go for, like, the, when one, like... you know, like the everyone has to stop at the same time is if you're like talking 2-3 close friends and you're all playing together. Sure, that makes sense to run it that way because you're cooperating with a small group of people. But if you're talking a community server where we could in theory have, you know, 10, 15, 20 people, like if we get that many, I might have to scale up and down the server. I think the limit, I'll have to double check what the limit's going to be on it. Because I'm gonna start at like 10, 15, 18. I don't remember what the thresholds are, but like something like that. And we'll see how it goes. And if I need to bump up the limit, like, you know, people have to take turns, we bump up the limit right away. If after like the first day it drops down, then I don't worry about that too much. Alright, so we have finished seeding that field. Let's double check to make sure it actually did seed the whole field. I'm going to drop this off and have this tractor go get itself repaired, because now the blue tractor can take over. It's better suited. But yeah, it's so genuinely it's not too bad, the going to sleep thing, because there's two strategies for how you deal with that. One is if you're playing with others, all you do is like go, hey, you know, can you keep an eye on me? Like, you know, I need to sleep. Can you keep an eye on things? And it's basically, hey, don't start a fight right now while I'm standing right here. Give me a chance to rest real fast. Because honestly, if you're not doing anything to make noise, 5 minutes is not that big deal. It doesn't need to be 5 minutes. It could also be just like 1 minute. I know there's an adaptability to it. I just don't know what it is. And it could even be that it adjusts based on how sleepy. So if you push your character to the absolute limit, maybe it's 5-10 minutes or whatever. Versus if you go, okay, it's been a little while, let me just hit a nap and it's like 1 minute. But the point is you have someone cover for you. And that's one thing. The other thing a lot of people do is, because it's a community server, we'll most likely have some community center, like some main community location that, you know, basically is kind of where we're grounded around. And then usually wherever that community center tends to be the safest place in the map, because everyone is coming and going from there, that zombies, you know, they don't get the chance to respawn, because the mechanic with respawn and Product Zomboid is if someone has passed through the area recently, it's ineligible for zombies to respawn there. So you have an area that like lots of people are frequenting through, it should effectively have respawns disabled in that area. Now I haven't done any planning around like, we're gonna base from here, we're gonna base from there. I'm planning to make a lot of that like very ad hoc, where we can, you know, when we pop on stream that day and the server goes live, going, all right, where are we basing from? Where we like, what do we want to do? Isn't sleepiness a stat in the game? Yes, normally. When playing multiplayer, sleep is disabled by default. You can turn it on, but there is, like I said, there's nuance to it. But yeah, that's the reason why a lot of people want sleep, is because generally speaking in Product Zomboid, when it comes to things that get you killed, the first one is you mess up and you let a zombie grab you. Straightforward. You walk up, the zombie bites you in the face, you die. Sure, absolutely, makes sense. But the more insidious way you die is the slow grind down, where you overcommit to a fight, you realize you're really exerted, and your character starts getting sleepy, and you get this feedback loop between getting sleepier and getting more exerted and getting sleepier, until the zombies physically outrun you. Your character's so exhausted and incapable of fighting. And it's just those things that, you know, you just basically slowly get whittled down till you've got no steam left in the engine. And the moment you make one wrong turn, you just get grabbed and you die. Or the moment you get intercepted, you can't shove past them, you can't fight, you can't do anything. Your character's just too tired. Fun fact, that's how humans used to hunt? Yeah. If you actually look at the things that humans actually excel at compared to other species, the big one you always hear about is the fact that we can take knowledge that, you know, I can take knowledge I have learned and give it to you. I can say, hey, I learned by XYZ, and I can hand it to you. And not only that, I can take that record, I can record it, I can shove it on a shelf, and 100 years from now, someone can open up that record, and they can learn the thing. So the conveyance of knowledge is something that it isn't unique to humans, but we are among the absolute best at it. Interestingly enough, one of the other animals that does do a good job is rats. if one rat eats something that gets them sick, they will have multiple generations of rats after that who are aware of the thing that got that rat sick and will not eat it, even if they've never been exposed to whatever that thing was. So I don't personally understand how they do that communication and all that, but it's just one of those things that they could pass knowledge on. So that's one big thing. Another big thing is, as Soul Adams is saying, is when it comes to endurance runners, humans are some of the best endurance runners. We're not the fastest, we're not this or that. Basically, we can kind of just keep following, keep pressure on things, keep following, until eventually, like, you know, if we're hunting a deer or an elephant or whatever, the elephant is finally like, I have nothing left to give, and then just lays down on the ground and accepts death because it has nothing left to give. You literally kept it from being able to take a break to recover until it was, you know, like, really, really, really just kind of burn them down slowly. What? Oh, there we go. I had myself all turned around. I was like, where am I going? What's happening? But, so it is one of those things that was the way we'd hunt, you know, woolly mammoth. You see, like, the depictions of, like, the guys with the spears. Generally speaking, you know, you didn't walk up to the woolly mammoth and start poking it. It would wreck people. But, you know, you'd sit there and you'd give it a little jab, the woolly mammoth would run away, try and, like, get, you know, just not let it settle, but you keep it moving, you keep it moving, you keep it moving. And effectively, you would just out-endure, because a woolly mammoth is a giant animal that has all that weight and all that mass and all that to move, is very consuming on energy. Whereas humans are relatively lithe when it comes to a lot of that stuff and very efficient. So we would just keep poking, keep poking, keep poking, and eventually the woolly mammoth would just have nothing left to give. And then you'd go up and you keep poking it till it dies. But by then it's like it's barely able to stand, so it can't really put up a fight. But that was the way we used to hunt back then. You know, and then there's stuff like rabbits, which we'd just huck rocks at. Which takes us to the third thing that humans are particularly excelling at compared to a lot of other animals. That humans have a really good combination between being able to extremely accurately throw things, and also having good range at throwing things. There are some animals out there who do have a bit more accuracy than we do, but usually their range is exceptionally limited. You know, in total, like, compared to their own body mass, some of them would blow us out of the water. But it's kind of a fascinating thing that you can take a person, hand them, like, a rock or something that they've never picked up before, and they can at least throw it okay. Like, they'll hit at least within a certain accuracy of their target after a throw or two. They just gotta, you know, do that thing where they, like, catch it, like, I have an idea how heavy this is, and you can land it most of the time at least within a ballpark of where you're trying to aim for. Where a lot of other things, when you see them throw, they just kind of sling it wherever, or they just don't have the thing. So there's, like, the three things that human beings kind of excel at compared to a lot of other species. Now, granted, unfortunately, to get a lot of those perks, there's a lot of design choices in the human body that are not great. A lot of how our, like, digestion and reproduction work in humans is not the best. There's a lot of dangers and problems that other animals just don't have that we deal with because, you know, standing up on two legs, it brings in a lot of concerns. Rib cages are generally meant to hold your organs in from, like, where you'd lean over. Our rib cages don't do that. All of our stuff just wants to sink down. So I'm saying that's also rat poison slow to design as the nibble on things to see if they get sick before committing to eating it. Yep. Spine, knees, yeah, spine, knees, hips, neck, back, like, you know, upper and lower back. Like I said, your digestive tracts have things that don't hold up well. Reproductive tracts don't hold up well. we have the issue where like a kid has to be born not fully developed compared to other animals because otherwise their head gets too big, and then you have problems. But it's the cause and effect kind of thing where we have all these evolutionary advantages, but they all came with side effects. There's pros and cons. I forget what that phenomena is called. Basically, as an animal tends to be higher and higher cognitive function, they generally get, you know, bigger craniums, bigger brains and all that. Well, when it comes to, you know, making babies, that means their head gets bigger and bigger, and that creates problems. So certain species have adapted to basically have what's effectively a not fully baked kid pop out, because you gotta let them continue developing outside to resolve the limitations in volume that can be handled by certain parts of people's bodies. Because that was oh man, where was that? There's was it Game Theory? Is either Game Theory, Film Theory, or like What If? It was one of those kind of things that they were talking about that phenomena as an explanation of why in Star Wars you see like whatever the species that Yoda is, which they mentioned it somewhere, and why they're so rare. And it's like, you know, they're supposed to be like ridiculously high cognitive function, and they take like 600 years or 900 years to go through their lifespan and all that, which means the rate of which they go through stuff like childhood and become like a non-infant and all that are so absurdly long. And then, you know, Mandalorian came out and they just, you know, they justified it where in character, I think like Baby Yoda is something like 80, 90 years old or some nonsense. But it aligns with that theory that like because they've hit this like higher level of cognitive function that they delay maturity and all that to accommodate for it. I think even Stargate also did that. I think Stargate also, I forget the races, but it was the one super sciencey alien race that wanted humanity to help them like fix where they had cloned themselves into being sterile and all that. That was the same kind of thing, that they had like all sorts of development stuff due to the increase, like, again, I forget the name of the actual phenomena or the theory or whatever. Hey, Night Dweller, how's it going? And Finnan and everyone else popping in. But it was always an interesting thing. That's like, yeah, there's a trade-off with those things. Now, obviously, in sci-fi, a thing living 900 years and spending its first like 200 years as what's effectively an infant, not the most realistic. Like, that would be a species that would die out in no time, because it means you've got this helpless thing that you have to somehow keep alive for like 100 years. And you can ask any parent who's had like an infant that, you know, is like 1 or 2 years old and just, you know, trying to keep that kid from not hurting itself. Imagine doing that for a full 100 years and succeeding. Because it can feel very, very touch and go, even if things aren't bad. I only played like the role of single parent for someone else's kid, which is a whole complicated thing we don't need to get into, for just over a year. And I'm sure I got gray hair from that. Everyday objects are such dangers. Oh, it's amazing. Like, very genuinely, the kid by themselves can be a danger to themselves. I've already told the story many times of where this was a 2 to 3 year old I was watching that, like I said, effectively single parent of someone else's kid, because their job made it so they were basically home long enough to go to sleep, and that was about it. And so I was taking care of the kid all the rest of the time, you know, outside of like dropping them with the babysitter for my own job, so I could go to work. But like, you know, before and after, it's all that. And there was a time that the kid was just running back and forth in the hallway. It's like, all right, we're getting the energy out. Like, it's fine. You know, running back and forth. And she was running through the hallway, got distracted by the TV, looked to the side, and went just straight into the wall at speed. And just going, oh my god. Like, this kid's gonna have a broken nose or something. And I have to explain to mom that, you know, like, what happened that this kid got hurt. You know, luckily it was fine. Like, the kid bounced, like, ricocheted off the wall right back onto their butt, and then giggled, and then got back up and went right back to running. So I was like, sweet, we're not hurt. Thank you. Because you also learned that 2- and 3-year-olds are basically made out of jelly. That was one of the lessons. I don't remember even who gave it. I think it was one of my parents or whatever who made the comment that it's you, like, when a kid does something like that, you kind of like just like be like, brush it off, don't make a big deal out of it. And then if the kid starts crying anyways, okay, then maybe the kid's hurt. But a lot of the time what actually happens is the parent panics. He goes, oh my god, are you okay? Which startles the kid into panicking and going, am I okay? Which upsets the kid and gets them crying. So it's everything would have been fine, but because you made this big concern out of it, that now the kid's up, you know, surprised, shocked, upset, whatever you want to go with. So it creates a problem. Whereas, like, if you give them a second to, like, self-evaluate, and you're like, okay, we're good? We're good? Cool, let's keep going. At least the kid will have a broken nose from a young age. They won't know life is with a normal one. Rough. And there was definitely a few times like stuff like that. That was the most extreme one that popped in my head. There was once or twice that, you know, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go use the restroom kind of thing. So you go to use the restroom, and you hear like something crash in the other room, and like the 2 seconds you left the room to use the restroom, which you have to do, the kid immediately beelined to climb on something, made it top heavy, and toppled it over. And luckily, I didn't have too much of a problem with that kind of thing happening. But there are certain ages where kids will test their boundaries. There's a reason they call them the terrible 2s and the terrible 3s, like between that area. It's one of the times that people test their boundaries. Just like you also hear about all like the things about how teenagers are nightmares. It's because that's the next major time you really test your boundaries. Like you have like the 2s and 3s. You're going from you are 100% entirely dependent on your parents. You can do literally nothing yourself. You can't change your own diaper or use the toilet. You're just now learning those skills. So you're getting like that little breath of independence where you go, you know, you as a kid can get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm gonna go play in my room and color. Okay. Like you're getting that level of independence where you don't have to have like mom and dad, you know, constantly checking on you because you 100% depend on them for literally everything. And then when you start getting to a teenager, it's like you very genuinely can do stuff to fully support yourself at that age. That, you know, you hit, I think it's like 15 or 16, I don't know what it is nowadays, that, you know, you can get a job. It's a part-time job that has limitations to it, but you can get a job where you get income and yada yada yada. That's a reasonable thing you can do. You can drive a car, and that's a thing you can do. You can, like, when you hit 18, you know, then you can, you know, get your own cell phone and do all those sorts of things. You're legally an adult. They can't tell you no. They can put stipulations like, if you want to live in my house, you can't do that. But if the kid says, yeah, I'm moving out, that's too bad. The kid can make that choice. They're not a kid anymore. They're an adult. In all legal standing, if they don't want to take off, they can do it. So you'll have them bristle a lot as they test out the new boundaries of what they can and cannot do and all that. You know, and genuinely parents trying to do right by their kids and all that. Like, it creates that conflict of one, you know the kid needs to feel these things out and test their boundaries and, you know, learn their limitations and yada yada yada. Like, you understand that's a thing that needs to occur, but also you're trying to help your kid not make really dumb decisions that will, you know, potentially have permanent ramifications of injury or, you know, serious legal trouble or whatever, but also trying to, you know, give them a chance to learn who they are. and it's always a juggle there. Michigan, you can serve me a beer at 14, yippee. I don't remember what the rules are. So I know there's one set of rules, like when you're at your own home, that you have one set of rules, like at your own home, like especially if it's, you know, a religious thing that you're allowed to like drink wine or whatever, and a kid is allowed to. I have no idea what the age rules are around that. Versus it's a totally different limit when you go out to the bar. Like here in Florida, you're not supposed to give a minor any alcohol at like a business or anything like outside of your own personal home until 21. That's like the age cutoff, at least last I checked. But I want to say there was like one or two specific exceptions to that around like religious practices or whatever. They're very narrow, and you're talking like it's like a sip of wine or whatever. And then there are inside your own home, the age is much lower, again with specific stipulations. I don't know the details on it, but like, you know, as like an 18-year-old, if my dad wanted to give me like a sip of beer, and you know someone noticed, he didn't have to worry about like someone coming out and be like, you're serving alcohol to a minor, you're going to jail or anything. It's like, nah, it's fine. Now obviously if he was getting me like absolutely tank drunk or something, you could go, okay, well that's child neglect, and sure, or like child abuse, child neglect, that kind of thing, like you're creating child endangerment. If you posted a link, links do get filtered by Twitch. That's one of those things that you kind of have to accept. That's pretty much across the platform, is just don't bother sending links. Some channels, they could do stuff like permit and all that kind of stuff, but it's one of those things, you gotta ask, then link kind of things. I don't have that set up, nor do I intend to set that up, really. Like, it inconveniences things sometimes, but, the amount it does to, like, prevent bot spam and all sorts of stuff, it's just the safer way. Let's see, your parents always had alcohol in the closets, but me and your sister didn't care. While our families had to hide and tuck and lock it away. Yeah, for me, my parents approached it like, hey, you know, if you want to drink something, you drink it here. So, like, even as, like, a young teenager, that was kind of the rule. It's not like they, like, oh, if you want to drink it here, like, all the time, like, badgering me about it. It's just kind of this thing they said. So, for me, it's like, there was never the appeal. And I did... Like, it did challenge my dad with this. Something that was like 19 or whatever. I was like, okay, and you know, I just went to the fridge, grabbed a beer, sat down, made sure it was like in plain line of sight of him, opened the beer and took a sip and went, that's terrible. Why would you drink this? And he's like, you know, he had a chuckle and he's like, you can give it here, it's fine. But it's, you know, I was at that age, I was testing my boundaries, and I was like, all right, you know, they've said I can do this, let's find out. And I learned at that point, like later on I got a taste for it. At that time, was not a fan. But to be fair, when I had friends in high school who, you know, their big thing was to like, oh, someone's parents are out of town, we're gonna go over to their house, we're all gonna go drink and party and all that. It didn't really have any allure to me because I could drink if I wanted to. So the taboo of, hoo-hoo, we're gonna go drink, I was like, man, but why? Like, I would go over and I'd have, like, a drink, but it wasn't like, you know, I had friends who were getting plastered kind of things because it was their one chance to drink and all that in a long time, and, you know, they were being rebels and bristling against authority and, you know, being independent adults and all the other stuff, and for me, it's just like, okay. And there was definitely a time or two that I had a bit to drink, but that's usually, I didn't realize what I was drinking, and then, you know, didn't know how to gauge the volume more than the desire to get drunk or whatever. But so you're able to say links in most channels you follow? You forget you can't do it here? Yeah, no, it's generally a thing. I'm trying to think, most of the channels I follow, either A, they just don't allow it. That's not the most common. It's fairly common. I'd say the most common is you can't by default, but if you let the mod team or the creator know, then they can permit you to do it temporarily. Like, they can say you have permission, and for the next, you know, N number of minutes you can post links. I can set that up, and I used to have that set up, but I will say, like, of the times I've had people post links on the channel way back, you know, it's maybe 1 out of 8 or not, that's probably not even that much. Like, 1 out of 10 times people tried to post links, was it actually meaningful or relevant. Most of the time it's stupid bots popping in and be like, buy follows and garbage like that that, you know, you slap away real fast, which that requesting permission kind of solves anyways. But every once in a while we'd have someone who would be like, hey, can I post a link? And then they'd post a link to like their Twitch channel. I'm like, what's wrong with you, man? What? Do you think that's gonna work? Yeah, no, I wasn't intending to. It's like, I used to have that set up, but I got rid of it because of one of those things. It's like, the times it was used in a productive or meaningful manner were so few. Black says, your dad gave me plenty of O'Douls for me to sip the cup of child in Ireland. Ah, O'Douls. For those not familiar with that brand, that is the non-alcoholic beer. It's when you really like the taste of beer and you don't want the alcohol. I don't know many people who drink much O'Douls. Yeah, bots got smarter. They separate the link now. Yeah, no, I have some stuff that detects where it says like this word space dot space com, like those kind of things. It's not perfect. And for the record, like some of the, not Twitch itself, but some of the bots, they do a lot. And then a lot of times they use common domains. That you just grab the domain and be like, yeah, no on that domain. It's not used for legitimate stuff. And also it's one of those things that generally a lot of creators and moderators and all that talk around where if you see like the latest follow bot pop up, then what people turn around to do is they'll be like, oh yeah, there's this follow bot going around. And even before it hits your channel that people like passed on like whatever the information is to get ahead of it. They tend to look up stuff often enough that they gave you permits, I guess. Only remember asking one stream, you love the taste? Yeah, I mean, that's fine. They make it for someone. So you literally had a beer and strong stuff since you're 14, 15, but always at home when I've always been with my parents. Never attached alcohol. Is he never attracted to alcohol, although I do drink quite much more now. Almost never get drunk. Yeah, I almost never get drunk as well. It's not that it never happens, but like getting properly, like not even drunk, but like getting properly even like buzzed maybe happens once like every 5 to 8 years or something like that. We're talking, it's pretty rare. Like it happened a little bit when I was younger, because like one is I had a buddy who'd get grain alcohol, and I can warn you that there's a lot of drinks that you won't even realize you're drinking alcohol, and then you have your friend go, I need you to sit down for a minute. And you're like, why? And then, you know, a minute or two later you go, oh, yeah. Yeah. And then meanwhile, like half an hour later, you're ready to go to sleep. And I'd say I'm generally a lighter weight. Which, it was always the thing when I was young. It's like, oh, you can't handle your liquor. I was like, man, you know what that means? It means if I actually was trying to accomplish this, I could do it for about $5-10 versus you gotta blow 50. Who's winning here? This guy. Yeah, now there was once or twice I had something and, you know, you had a person like, you know that's like 190 proof, right? And you're like, what? It's what now? Or you'd take a sip of something, it's like, my mouth just went numb. What is this? What are you giving me? Yeah. No, I'd say it's probably true around here too, if like, you know, if kids are running around, like unless it's like a toddler or something. But like, you know, if kids are running around, like, you know, one like takes a little sip of their dad's beer, I don't think, you know, I think someone would be like, hey, does your dad let you do that? Like that kind of thing. It's like, and you know, quietly go to, it's like, hey, you know, is that fine? Like it's fine if it's fine with you. Just, you know, a lot of parents aren't okay with that. Just making sure your kid's not using the hustle and bustle here to pull a fast one. Seems like if your mouth instantly goes numb, you don't get to enjoy drinks. That's the difference between drinking as an adult and like actually wanting to enjoy your beverage, and then drinking as like a teenager to maybe early 20s, where they have an entirely different goal for drinking the alcohol, which is to get absolutely obliterated. Um, which is where they go, here, let's mix Kool-Aid and grain alcohol, and then just wreck people. That was, Toom and I were joking about, it's like, different times in our life, like, what's the youngest you would date at different times? And it was almost like the moment I turned, like, 23, it's like, yeah, 23 is my limit in how young. Like, the moment I got over 23, it's like, wait, only, like, even 2 years younger? It's like, nah, you don't understand. When you're 21 to that 23, that's a lot of people making a lot of rash decisions about imbibing things and, experimenting with stuff and partying hard and all that. I'll wait till they're done. Wait till they got settled after that. These days it'd be much older than that too, but... Ever tried 80% straw? It's like drinking barbed wire dosed in gasoline set on fire. That sounds awful. There was a few beers I got, and I'm using beers in air quotes here. They would label themselves beer, but in reality, they aren't technically beers. That'd be like, yeah, this is a 23% by volume alcohol beer. It's like, so it's not a beer. It's like, no, it's a beer. Like, no, you mean it's alcohol made with hops and all that tastes like a beer, but it is a completely different animal. You have escaped the category of beer. You're not quite full-on liquor yet, but you're somewhere in between. You get some of those beers and they're usually pretty weird. Some of them are good, but not many. Let's see. Alka 80 alcohol by volume. You don't feel it for the first minute, and then you get hit with the sledgehammer. Well, that was stuff like grain alcohol will do that to you. That you'll sit there and you'll sip it and you'll be fine, and like 15-20 minutes will go by, and then like you are just wrecked. Which I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again for people who weren't here for it. There was a time that it was I legal drinking age? I was definitely of legal drinking age and not questioning if I was of legal drinking age. But, it was me, I think, we'll just pretend. I don't remember. It's like right along that fence of hitting legally. I think I was. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. But, we were having a bonfire at my house. And so we're like, you're chilling, we're having this bonfire in the back, and, I'm hosting. It was me and my younger brother were hosting and all that. So we're like maintaining the bonfire and all that. And I was kind of taking because while I had a bunch of friends, he had more of his friends around. So I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'll take care of the bonfire. Like, that's just kind of things. Like sometimes he would handle like everything and I could hang out and just relax. And our times it'd be the other way around. But I'm maintaining this bonfire. So it's Florida. It's hot. I'm getting sweaty. I'm probably dehydrating and all that. And there was like this giant, like it's like the big plastic handle of, I can't remember, it's like Hawaiian Punch or whatever, like that style of thing. I didn't look at what it was. People were just like, it's like, hey, I'm getting thirsty. Like, let me grab a drink real fast. I didn't even realize I was drinking alcohol. I thought I was drinking like Gatorade or whatever. And that was where I had like, I'm getting hot and dehydrated, so I'm slamming these things down real fast. I've had like 3 like tall glasses of this stuff. And my one buddy's like, I need you to sit down. And I'm like, why? And it was mostly grain alcohol with like Kool-Aid, just put in this big bottle for convenience. And I was done. I was done for the night. I was just absolutely wrecked. I didn't even know I was drinking. I was just like, taking care of this fire, thinking of drinking Kool-Aid or whatever, or not Kool-Aid, like Gatorade, Powerade, whatever, and just having a completely irresponsible amount. Yeah, I didn't full on pass out, but I was definitely not going to be working on a fire or anything of meaning for a while. You ever tried Czech beer? There's 8-10%. I think I had a Czech beer. So ooh, what was it for? Christmas? For Christmas I had my this is not the first time he's up, but like this past year, my dad got me a bunch of like one-off beers from a bunch of different places. I want to say one of them was a Czech beer. I don't think it was an 8 or 10% one. Ever visit the Balkans? Do not trust clear water bottles. Unrelated to any of that, I've told people about I have a coffee maker that says not for coffee. Because people asked if I gardened earlier. I used to garden very heavily. It was one of my big hobbies, like, that I spent the most time doing. I have pictures when I had the old apartment that I was at, that literally my apartment looked like some kind of grow house. There was like vines and stuff hanging off the sides. I had grown, like, I think, like, this is all at one time. I had habanero, jalapeno, cayenne, cubanelle peppers, which is kind of a sweet pepper with a little bit of a bite to it. I had cherry tomatoes, steak tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, green beans, sweet snap, like the sweet snap pea. I don't remember what those beans are called. Like a whole thing of like herbs, you know, like scallions and rosemary and stuff like that. I had, what else did I have? There was more to that. I had basil. I had oh, there's others I'm blanking on. I didn't have onion or anything like that at that time. I got those later. I had mint, which was intended as being part of a planter, and if you've ever grown mint, just understand whatever you planted it in is now a mint planter. Whatever it was before, it won't stay that. Peppers, I grew lots of peppers. If you are, like, I also grew we call them bell peppers. If you're from Australia or New Zealand, they're called capsicum peppers. Grew those as well. Those I had mixed results with. Paprika, I did not grow paprika. I grew garlic. I grew a little bit of garlic. And this is an apartment, just like this little like maybe 6 foot by 3-4 foot space in the back of apartment. I grew all of that. I had like a whole row of like potted plants in the bottom. I had like on the rail, I had like the big planters that go along the entire length of the rail. And then I had hung up from the top, I had hung up the plants with the coconut fiber lining and all that. Paprika for bell pepper? No, I mean, actually I have no idea what paprika is. But when we call it a bell pepper, it's a sweet pepper. Paprika, I think, has a totally different taste, or different smell, not taste. Actually, I mean both, I guess, technically. But yeah, so I grew an obnoxious amount of stuff. There's other stuff I tried that just didn't take. Like, I did try to do some greens, like lettuce type stuff, but the conditions just weren't right. Usually it's so hot here. You try and grow stuff like lettuce and spinach, and the sun just fries it. But man, I had that ridiculous garden. We had a hurricane roll through, so I had to pull it all inside. So I've got a picture of the inside of my apartment where it just, again, it looked like like someone's grow house. Like, I am still surprised I never had just randomly, like, the police show up being like, hey, you know, someone called something in, we just want to take a look around kind of thing. Because of how much just random crap I had growing off of this place. But what ended up happening is my habanero plant was one of my most successful plants. Generally speaking, and I don't know what the metric equivalent is, a habanero plant grows sort of like a bush, but it usually grows somewhere in the area of like 2.5 feet wide by 2.5 feet tall, give or take, depending on the specific like type of habanero and the conditions and yada yada yada. And the one I had grew over 4 feet tall and about 3.5 feet wide, and in a single year would produce somewhere in the area of 200 to 300 habanero peppers or more. Like, I was coming up with things to do with these because, like, what the hell am I going to do with all of these peppers? Because it's not like I could have, you know, a compost thing at this little apartment. There was nowhere to put it. And, you know, I could put a bunch in the trash, which, sure, but that feels like a waste. Pickle 'em, I I pickled them. I made a lot of fresh salsa. The limit there was, you know, the tomatoes, not having enough tomatoes to offset the sheer volume of habanero. But what I ended up using to like really, really burn down the amount was I would dehydrate them in a dehydrator. Sorry, I would de-seed and stem them. I would flatten them out, put them in a dehydrator, and then, you know, dehydrate them until they're dehydrated. And then I put the little teeny tiny dehydrated habanero things, because they'll only be like this big or so when you like just between the fingers, like this big. It'd be like a small potato chip size, and roughly the same texture but thicker, but not as hard. Like they'll be a little bit more rubbery. But I would put those in a coffee grinder to grind them down into, basically for using in seasonings. So I might just have like straight up habanero in one. I might put like habanero, garlic, and onion for like a seasoning, and then, you know, maybe pepper, whatever, for another. And I used to make seasonings with it. Well, I'd take that coffee grinder, I put like a big label, it's like not for coffee, because you can imagine if I had, you know, at the time, you know, I was trying to find someone and was dating a bunch of different people, so people were coming and going. You know, as I'd, you know, go on a date or two with someone and be like, nah, this isn't what I'm looking for. They would say the same or whatever. You could imagine someone visiting your apartment or whatever and going, let me go ahead and make some of my coffee. And, you know, it would be a far more exotic flavor of coffee than they originally intended. They would sip the coffee, and the coffee would bite them in the face. As you know, it was like 1 million on the Scoville scale coffee. Nice casual, nice relaxing, definitely not upsetting coffee. I still have that coffee maker, because for those who don't know, the oil in peppers is really, really hard to properly clean out of stuff, because you can't see it. It's effectively invisible. So you'll swear you got it, you know, well. And then someone will do something and be like, oh my god, it's so hot. And like, alright, well, I guess I just didn't do as good of a job cleaning that as I thought I did. And especially with a coffee maker where you got like all those like nooks and crannies, unless you tear the whole thing apart, which I did from time to time, and like tear the whole thing apart, like really get in there, you're gonna miss some. And then again, you're gonna get spicy coffee. Alright. So we got all that fertilized and herbicided and cultivated and all that, and seeded. So those fields are done. I'm just going to do a quick pit stop. How are our greenhouses doing so far as capacity? Okay, they are starting to get a couple boxes. I'm not going to worry about it right now. We'll need to empty out the greenhouses soon. So what's probably going to end up here is likely what I'll do is I'll go make sure the bread is cycled. We'll advance the day by one. And when do I harvest? So I harvest the wheat in July. So you know what? Well, that because we got a couple minutes left, or not a couple minutes. We got like 20 minutes left. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I will cycle the stuff over here, and we will advance to when I would need to turn around and start harvesting everything. I'm not going to start the harvesting process because that is the slowest process we have. But I'm low-key, and I'm going to need everyone to like just believe this is going to be a thing to actualize it. I'm low-key really hoping that one of the higher end harvesters shows up, because if so, we get to upgrade our harvester. If not, I don't think I can quite put ourselves over the finish line to getting the harvester. I really want to. I just don't think it's going to quite get that far, because we're at 232,000, and I could probably make somewhere in the ballpark of selling equipment I don't need, somewhere in the area to 40 to 60,000. I could sell some stuff early, but we just did our sales like 2-3 in-game months ago. And so, realistically, I wouldn't get a thing. What do you mean, show up? So, if we hit P, there's a sales used vehicle. If it shows up here, you'll see that this is 55% off, 56% off. It can be, I think the max is 60% off, and the lowest is 40% off, if I remember correctly. That's what we're hoping to make happen. As far as the harvester, if we don't get it on sale, the one we're looking at is, I believe, that one. So 357,000. So you'll notice we're about 120,000 shy. I can make about 60-something thousand happen by selling our old harvester and some other equipment I don't need. And I would guess if I were to sell all the stuff from here, the bread and the flour we've got sitting around, I would guess maybe I can make 40,000 happen. That might be estimating high because we don't have, it's actually, it'd be about 18 for the flour, and I don't have a clue where the bread would be at. So yeah, no, it's probably in that ballpark. Okay. So, sale. I got really excited when I saw the orange and green here. But not what we're looking for. Let's take a quick check. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Cycle those. Still sleeping in the van, huh? Yep. Because getting a nicer place to seat doesn't get us money. I want the money. Great demand. It's not one of the things we want. I mean, we got the big honkin' tractor, which is nice, but not what we're looking for. The sheep are fine. Honestly, the storage capacity of those I can put up with a lot. The only one that's really rough is the bread. You can only go like 2 in-game months without emptying it before it goes. Let's double check that I don't actually go over. So it's not there, it's not barley, we have wheat. Alright. Fingers crossed, we got one more roll of the dice. Do we get the harvester? Or a harvester? It doesn't need to be the harvester, it needs to be a harvester. Because I'm thinking, the odds are not good. But I'm hoping we'll make it happen. What are you? Oh, Forger Mixer Wagon. Yep, so no luck at getting ourselves a discount harvester. It is when I would need to start harvesting everything. We will need to do water here. I will probably want to empty those out today in game. So that is fine. It means we have the one last round of harvesting because we make about 200,000 a year. So that does mean what will likely happen is next year when we go in here, we can go higher than this one. I could go... Literally the only one I can't do is I won't be able to do that one or that one. Everything else will be on the list. And honestly... No, actually I probably could do that one. Maybe. Because we get another 200,000, puts us up to about 430-something thousand. Then I can sell the stuff, puts us up to 450. Maybe. I probably can't make those two happen without a sale. But literally everything else would be doable. What I meant to ask is how far away is the next harvester? How far away is the next harvester? Money-wise? Technically, if we don't sell anything, about 120,000. But I have about 60,000 worth of equipment I could sell. So that's 60,000 more. And then I have probably about 50,000 we could sell right now. It would be on that fence where I might be able to make it happen. Oh, wait. We get an extra 20,000 today from the straw. It's like actually like 12,000 from the straw. Still, the point is, I can't make it happen right now. That's the big negative. Right this second, for this harvest we're doing right this second, I don't think it's a realistic thing, unfortunately. I was really just hoping we'd get lucky and we'd see one pop up. Because honestly, any of these, anything from that or better, I would be happy with. Because let's see, not that. Because we can have that one is 9 meters. That one is 9 meters. I actually wouldn't want those two. So this one's still better than those two for my purposes. 12 meters. So this would be a really good one, the 410. This is the dream, 13 and a half meters. That's the dream. 12 meters. Probably be 12 meters. 12 meters. Actually, 13.8. Oh, don't you have like a larger one? Yeah, 15.2. And I don't think you have a bigger one. I think that's as big as you get. Yeah, so the idea being this one over here on the right and that one are bigger, but otherwise, like, any of these other ones here would all be good. And these two are definitely in the realm of what we can happen. And honestly, they're all within a rock throw of each other on most of their stats. So, that's fine. That said, we are reaching about that point in the stream where I'm not going to go ahead and start harvesting those fields, because if I start harvesting those fields, that means I'm going on for like the next hour plus, and I have a dentist appointment in the morning, so that's no fun. But I actually don't mind the dentist, it's just the waking up part. So with that said, if you're over on if you're on TikTok and YouTube, the stream will be ending abruptly for you because there's no such thing as raiding over there. But if you're over here on Twitch, we will be going to raid someone, so don't go anywhere. Tag along with that, and don't forget to follow and subscribe and like and do whatever is you do on your respective platforms, because you do those on those platforms. So goodbye TikTok, and goodbye